Friendships podcast where books and friendships collide. I'm Becca.
And I'm Keri, and my two friends who love to talk about books. And today we are talking about chapters 11 through 20 of Reckless by Lauren Roberts.
Yep. So we are going to go into our one-sentence summaries for chapters 11 through 20. If you haven't read Reckless, chapters 11 through 20, and Powerless, we'll be here when you have.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 11. Paedyn is fighting Slick and wins. Let's go, girl. But goes to collect her money before being challenged to another fight by a cool voice she hoped to never hear again.
Chapter 12. An exhausted, angry Kitt thinks about his father and how Kai is the king he always wanted, then jots down his feelings and thoughts onto parchment.
Chapter 13. Kai challenges Paedyn to a fight before she disappears and tries to strike a deal with him before kissing him passionately with hatred and going back to fight.
Chapter 14. Flame and Shadow fight, and before Shadow has a chance to win, Flame pulls the scarf from her head, revealing the silver hair that haunts him.
Chapter 15. Kai and Paedyn run from the fighting ring before they have a heated exchange where Paedyn tells Kai just how similar they are.
Chapter 16. Having captured her, Kai and Paedyn go to an inn for the night where there is one room and one bed. And Paedyn and Kai did talk about their fathers and their unfortunate ends at one another's hands.
Chapter 17. Kai wakes Paedyn up and she pushes his buttons, so he rushes around door before taking a break, kneeling before her to address her injuries.
Chapter 18. Kitt receives a visit from Andy, who came to fix his window that apparently has food coming out of it because Kitt barely eats, and to help fix him. But Kitt pushes her away, being more kingly than cousinly.
Chapter 19. Kai brings Paedyn to meet up with the other Imperials, and the group begins their journey across the Scorches to go back home to Ilia.
Chapter 20. Stopping for the night, Paedyn and Kai talk about their beliefs on Ilia and the Ordinaries, but when Kai falls asleep, arrows attack the camp, and Kai feels a very familiar dagger at his neck.
Yes.
The journey. Anyways, so we don't have any meet cutes today, but we did get to see Andy again, which I loved. Got to see one of our favorite Powerless characters. But shall we move on to quotables?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to start out of order here with chapter 12. So Joe Jonas, I have to clarify this. He has a new song coming out,
Okay.
or album, Baddies Who Get Saddies, or something like that. I don't know. So we're calling this chapter Kitt, the baddie who is saddy.
Okay.
So just had to clarify. Really excited about the album release.
I can tell.
So, it's been 2 weeks since Kitt's life has changed. He doesn't know when he has last shaved, when he's even left his office, and he's angry, writing down all his thoughts and feelings on his parchment paper that he is apparently using as a pillow to sleep on. Boy's going through it. He is disheveled, I'm assuming. He probably looks like a hot mess. So we actually find out he's envious of Kai at this point and thinks Kai was the king Father wanted. Father hated that he wasn't the heir, hated that the king he wanted was thwarted by the son he had first. I wasn't Kai, and it killed him. So these brothers have such different interpretations of their father, which I find super interesting, but I'm sure we'll see more of this later, so we can talk about that later, because I think we're going to dive into that a lot more, I hope.
Okay.
But we've also talked about it extensively in Powerless, so I don't think we need to sit on that. But we also learned...
That's true, but we've never really gotten Kitt's perspective on it.
That's true. We've gotten, like, his dialogue from Paedyn. I think that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But he's going through it emotionally. He's, like, all in his feels. But we also learned that he thinks about Paedyn far more than he wants to or should. And we get this last little line from him in his chapter. It says, "I'm tired of writing him from the villain's perspective." So he's tired of writing his thoughts and feelings from a villain's perspective. So I feel like he thinks he's the villain. We are kind of thinking he's the villain right now. I mean, I don't think so, kind of, but yeah. But I'm interested to see how that like villain mindset develops throughout the book.
Okay, so I really enjoy that we got Kit's perspective. I didn't like when we got Kit's perspective in this section, but I
It was
liked
very rude.
that we got it, right? But I do think out of the three of them, so I'm talking Kitt, Paedyn, and Kai,
Hmm.
Kitt is handling this with more emotional maturity than Kai and Paedyn by far.
Yeah.
Like the fact that he's like writing, like yes, he's isolated and in like his own room or whatever, but the fact that he's like writing things out and like processing through writing rather than like taking it out on his servants or taking it out on other people like he fully could, like I think that shows such a good level of emotional maturity from him. And I also think like he's grieving in a really good way here,
Mm.
right? Like yes, he's sad and like he's got a lot of emotions, but he loved his father and like his father died. Like
Hmm.
he's grieving. So like yes, he's sad. Yes, he's doing all these things, but I think we noticed such this drastic difference from Kai and Paedyn, who are like fighting and trying to get over it and burying it deep down. And then we get Kitt, who is like actually processing through all the things he needs to process through. And he's
Yeah,
the oddball out when in reality, like he's probably processing the healthiest mentally.
probably. He's also, we can't forget that he's processing that he's now an orphan, basically. Like he's,
Mm-hmm.
yes, he lost his father. Yes, he's an orphan, but now he's been thrown into this huge position of power. And he has to punish the girl that he fell in love with. We'll say that. I don't know if it was that deep, but he has to punish this girl who betrayed him that he had feelings for. And that's a lot to work through, my guy. This is his first
Yeah.
kingly duty to like get rid of the girl that he trusted and betrayed him. It's a lot. Our guy Kitt, I
Yep.
feel for him. The
I feel for him
baddie who
too.
is saddy. So
I feel like Kit's not really a baddie, but
no,
I'll
but
give it
I
to
had to
you.
use it. Anyways, let's move on to chapters 11, 13, 14, and 15. It's a
Okay.
lot, but it's okay. We're going to call this the showdown because there are a lot of showdowns. So we're immediately thrown into the fighting ring where we have Shadow, aka Paedyn, fighting Slick, which I kept writing his name as Slime for our outline for some reason.
Well, that kind of fits him too.
It
So,
does. It does. But we want to make sure we're calling him the correct name.
yes.
But she's fighting Slick. Some things to remember here because I kept forgetting like where Paedyn was in this whole section. Like
Okay.
she needs to stay anonymous, like that's contingent on her surviving. She is
Mhm.
hungry, she needs money. She also she wants to like start over here. So that's why she's like fighting for money so that she
Mhm.
can live. And she's very good at fighting, as we all know.
Mhm.
So during her fight with Slick, Kai finds her. I was just like, oh no. Yes. I was like, all the feelings. I was so excited to get his point of view after we read Peyton's point of view, when she hears his voice, and then we get his point of view where he's like looking and then he sees her, and then we get his like version of the line. I don't know. This is one of the reasons I love dual POVs because
Okay.
for like that type of situation, 10 out of 10. I'm here for it.
Okay.
So she wins the fight against Slick, and the most dramatic thing ever happens, which is like, does Shadow want to fight again? Or here, I wrote down. So is Shadow up for another round? And it's our boy Kai. And I'm just like, yay, he found her, but also run, Peyton, because you're gonna get I don't know. I have mixed feelings about when they're back together.
I
Anyways,
For our listeners who do not watch our YouTube, I just watched a whole host of different emotions fly across Keri's face, from joy to confusion to unsurety
yeah,
to, I don't even think that's a word, but to
that's
like
okay.
unsettled to like happy again. There was all the emotions in that one sentence that she just said.
Basically, that's what those two chapters did to me. So Paedyn is obviously shook and terrified by the fact that Kai has found her, and he can tell. Like he's like, haha, I like she's searching and she's looking for him, and we get this quote from Kai's point of view. It's a little chunk here, so bear with me. And then those eyes crash into mine. It's electric. This look, though not like it used to be. The invisible tether between us is now charged with our past, our present, our future, with everything we once were and everything we now are. It's a hostile sort of harmony, both of us finally fully aware of what we are to each other. Nothing. Just the shell of what could have been. I think that's where we were. But this quote specifically, when I read this, I highlighted it in my Kindle. I was like, yes, yes, yes. I was like, oh, they're finally gonna kiss. I don't know what about that. I think it was just like the intensity of like, oh, they're here, they're together, and they're gonna kiss. We're gonna get the kiss finally.
Yeah, the kiss that was so rudely interrupted by the Imperial back in the garden the night
I'm gonna
before the
fight
final
that
trial.
that guy.
Ugh, he's
We'll talk
probably
about it.
dead. Kai
Well,
probably killed him, if we're
Kai
being
probably
honest.
killed him that night. He was probably like, "You're dead."
Well, he told the king that some is gonna lose his life because you told him that something was urgent when it wasn't.
Okay, so we don't get the kiss quite yet. So we're gonna skip over that for a second. We're gonna come back to it. Don't worry, everyone. But before they fight, or let me back up. They agree to fight, and Kai decides on the name Flame and says, if she is Shadow, then I am Flame. Chill bumps. But before they fight, Paedyn needs a break and an opportunity to get away. And as her name suggests, she tries to shadow herself out of there and gets Kai pinned with a blade against his throat. She wants them to come to some sort of agreement where if she wins, he lets her go, and if he wins, she will go back to Ilia quietly. And he realizes at this point that she doesn't have it in her to actually kill him. And we get a call back to Powerless here when she says, "Don't think for a second that I won't be the death of you." So we get like we know because we're reading both of their POVs that neither of them really have it in them to like actually kill one another, even though they both have had many, many opportunities. They just don't do it. I think Kai less than Paedyn at this point, but Paedyn has definitely hesitated a lot. Our girl's got it bad. Anyways, the tension.
I don't
Do you
know
have
if
some?
she's got it bad.
She does. She just doesn't know it.
Okay, I'll give you
She's
that.
overcome by hate right now. She's got
Yeah.
it bad. She was like talking about like later when his mask comes off, like his not just theoretic or yeah,
Yeah.
theoretical mask, his actual mask. And she's like, wow, those he's not changed and those lines are the one. Anyways, she's got it bad. I will
Okay.
stand on that. But the tension gets thick, and I'm here for it. You guys should all read it. Even if you've already read it, go back and read it because I certainly did. And we're just here for it. And they finally kiss. I was like, I didn't expect it to come so soon, I'll be honest.
Okay.
I loved it though. I loved that this was the situation of their first kiss because it was full of feeling, it was filled with so much hate. Always here for enemies to lovers trope kisses. They're 10 out of 10. I actually saw a lot of people who didn't like this as their first kiss. So, what were
Why
your thoughts?
why didn't people like it as their first kiss?
I don't remember They just said it wasn't. I was trying not to read into too many spoilers, so I wasn't watching too long. But on TikTok, I saw a lot of people saying that they didn't like how their first kiss happened. But I disagreed entirely. I thought it was perfect for them.
I, looking back at the story, agree that I don't love that that was their first kiss.
At the Powerless story, or what we have so far in Reckless? Or
Not what we have so far in Reckless. I'm
like
talking
through
like
Reckless?
through Reckless. I am not thrilled that this was their first kiss. I think there are other moments that would have been more impactful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think like the hate, like the emotional, like disgust and hate for each other, did you like that? And like all those feelings bubbling up, like the past and the present and the future.
So, okay. I think yes, I did like those feelings. I think what I didn't love is because we got the kiss from Kai's POV, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I didn't love is I felt like Kai was disassociating while he was kissing her because he kept going back to like it's dark so I cannot see her. So like I'm kissing somebody like he wasn't thinking in the situation with the facts that he had. He was like disassociating from what was actually happening versus like so he's the one who kissed her first, right?
It just says like their lips clash.
Okay.
So I think
So
it's
like
like meant to be like one of those things where they pull each other in.
yeah. So I think that's where like I mean, I probably wouldn't have thought about this had you not asked me. But yeah, I think I didn't love like that aspect of it. I liked all the feelings and I love a enemies to lovers kiss, like don't get me wrong, but I for all the buildup that we had in Powerless to like barely get a peck and then for this to be their like first real kiss was I don't know. I just like I said, I think there are other moments in the book where that this could have happened because I don't know that having it here moved the story along.
I could see that. I liked it. Everything about it.
Everything.
Everything.
I love that you love that. And art is so subjective for a reason.
This is true. This is
We're allowed to
true.
appreciate the art that we appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad you liked it so much.
Yes. Because I feel like there's no other way their first kiss made sense. Like those feelings. Like I would not have wanted them to resolve it and then have their first kiss. Like I would want them to have this angst lying underneath and building for their first kiss. And then resolve later, hopefully.
You don't think so? Okay. I would have liked, because you've already read this, I would have liked their first kiss to happen while they were at the inn.
Yeah, I could see that. But I think I don't know. I just feel like their angst was just I don't know, like the dark alley, the like they can deny like what they are and what's going on in the moment and like leave all that behind and kind of go back to where they were before like the bowl and the resistance and everything. So they were able to kind of like turn off their brains and what has happened up to that point and just be like and like let it all out.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that makes sense.
10 out of 10. Love it. Love the whole chapter because of
That's
that.
not bad.
And one of the quotes I loved was this kiss is deep and anything but tender. It is betrayal, it is bitterness, and nothing has ever tasted so sweet. Just love it. And also, after their kiss, he is saying how he was shocked that she wanted to kiss him as much as he her. And I was like, bro, I know she's lied about a lot at this point, and like he's confused. I'm sure. But like her feelings for him are real. Like those little things, subtleties he picked up in Powerless of her, like with the dimples and the arrow and everything, those things are real. I don't want to slap in the face and be like, bro, I understand. But like, girl's been wanting to for a while.
Yes, but I from Kai's perspective, she hasn't. Because he thinks everything she did was a lie up until
Yeah.
that point. Like this is the first piece of evidence that he really has to say like she actually wants to kiss him and actually like those feelings were valid and not just her using Kai. Because
Mm-hmm.
like he was jealous over her relationship with Kitt and she used Kitt. So
That's true.
why is that different? Like why would he think that was different for her using Kai too?
That's true. It's a good point. I love it.
We're I feel like we are on opposite sides here.
That's good though. Creating some distension. Anyways, let's get into their fight. So their fight takes place in chapters 13 and 14. And again, I loved it. Just go read it. The callbacks to Powerless are wonderful. There's so many like things like when they're fighting, he goes back and he's like, oh, we're dancing in the whispers. Like when he said dissociating, he is doing that in the fight a little bit. He's like going right back to the time in Powerless. So
Yep.
I could quote all of chapter 13, 14, but I won't. Just go read it again. It's amazing. But I will pull two more quotes here. So the first is go on, my silver savior, be my undoing. It just makes me happy. Okay.
Delicious.
We delicious. We should really pull and like count how many times they say this in both of these books so far. Like undoing and I don't know the
Ruin.
other word. Like yeah, ruin. Like
Yeah.
I wish we had started counting, but maybe our Kindles can do it for us. But as a revenge for her pulling down his disguise, his mask, he pulls her scarf from his head and we get a powerless quote here. I'm powerless to stop him from ripping the scarf from my head. So, ding ding ding, powerless. Okay. So after she has been exposed as the Silver Savior, and Paedyn, with Kai's teasing and encouragement, decides she needs his help to make it out because the only true way she can make it out of there is with him. And as they leave the fighting cellar, she comes to the conclusion that they are both incredibly similar to one another. And she says, we are one and the same, this enforcer and me, both numb, both burdened, both covered in blood, in the blood of each other's father. Which is deep, heavy. That's a lot. And she decides to confront him about how he killed her father. And he seems to truly not know that he killed her father and is about to deny it when Kai becomes distracted and she gets away yet again. Cat and mouse, Tom and Jerry. That's what we should have called this.
Tom and Jerry.
Reckless edition.
That's funny. Okay, so I titled these chapters The Calm Before the Storm, and I'm going to be honest here. I struggled finding some topic titles, so they're not super great tonight or today, but
That's okay. We love it.
last night, that's what I was going to say. They weren't super great last night, and my creativity was not up to where it normally is in the mornings either. So here we are.
Okay. I love it.
But anyways, so Kai is all in his feels because he's thinking about the confession that Paedyn just told him that Kai killed Paedyn's father. And I do want to point out here that we've been sitting with this information since the end of Powerless. Like as readers, we have been sitting with this information for a long time. And this is not new information. But for Kai, this is brand new information that he had no idea about, and he's trying so hard to reconcile the fact that he killed Paedyn's dad while also chasing her around Door. And like that's just like, I for those of you who don't like who didn't get an extra chapter at the end of Powerless, we got Kai's perspective of when he went and killed Paedyn's dad.
Mhm.
And it was so like that was so impactful on Kai's life. So for him to realize that it was Paedyn's dad just like really shook him, which good job, Kai. Being a thank you for letting it affect you.
He was being a good human.
Yes. So after he's running around Door, he catches her by throwing his knife, reopening the wound he gave her when she was running away from the burning building. And they're still kind of flirting. And when they're talking about the wound, Paedyn is sassing him for reopening the wound he gave her originally. And from Kai, we get, quote, "I almost smile. You knew that was me, huh?" And Paedyn says, "Of course it was you," she huffs. "You're the only one with aim almost as good as me." So I just
Almost. I love
imagine
that she says almost. So
So I just
sassy.
imagine Kai is like internally preening and like puffing out his chest, and like she knows it was me and she's complimenting me and there's still hope. Like I can feel it. And
Homeboy's gonna
um
be holding on to every string of hope of the whole
yes.
book, I think.
Yes. And he sees that she's like struggling and hurting and like close to death, right? And is losing like her fight like internally. And we get, quote, "What is she without her fire fueling her? A shell of the silver savior she once was, the ghost of a girl I was willing to ruin myself for. If she fights for nothing, she lives for death. But if she burns for something, she lives for hope. I want her to fight me. I want her to burn for me, even if it means with hatred." So like Kai is still wanting good things for Paedyn, even if he's not ready to like admit it to himself, and especially not outwardly. So what does he do? He takes her to an inn to get some rest so she can like rebuild the fight in her.
That last quote, "I want her to burn for me, even if it means with hatred."
Ah,
Giving Bridgerton.
I burn for you. Yes.
I love it, especially because we're about to go into an inn.
Oh, that's true. I did not even think about that. Yes. So I do have to admit something though. I typically do not like the one room, one bed trope. Do you like it, Keri?
I love that trope.
I, 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 okay. I can see why people love it, right? And I do like it, but I've only read a few books that have actually done it right to me. So like, I don't know. I've like, there are some books that I read and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I I like the this is going to be funny. I like the uh I'm choosing to have a one bed trope versus like the one there's only one room left at the inn.
I like both, but especially when it's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. We only have one room with one bed." And I'm like, "Oh no.
That's so funny.
How could this be happening?" The best one bed, one room trope, I think, is in the movie Leap Year.
Leap year. I don't think I've ever seen that.
I think we talked about this with either Marissa or the Bookish and Bubbly ladies.
Yeah. That would have been Marissa.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it's Marissa.
Well, like I said, I understand because I've read I think this is it. I think the one and enemies to lovers is kind of predictable too. But like I feel like the one bed trope is like, okay, there's one bed, we know where this is going. Like I just feel like it's super predictable versus
And
like okay, I'll give it to
go
you.
ahead. Sorry.
Um I will admit though, Lauren Roberts pulled the rug right out from under us because I thought we were going to get a one bed trope in this story and we did not get it. And I'm honestly not sure how I feel about not getting it
Mm.
because I liked that it was a different perspective, but I felt like we were going one way and then we didn't go that way. And I was like, what is happening right now? And like I liked that it was unpredictable, but also like I was ready for it, and then it just like wasn't there, which is fine. But
Yeah. I like that they
anyways.
were it wasn't what we thought it would be, and then they had like a moment where they could like talk through more things and like have like a more okay, we're not trying to kill each other right now. Let's like have a conversation.
Okay, so here's the thing. This is where I would have liked their first kiss to be, because they got into the room and that could have been like their fight and the angst, and like they could have had the angst there and then kissed, and then they would have pulled away and said like, oh, I can't do this, and then they would have had these softer moments of Kai taking care of her, right? Which is my next point. I do really appreciate how we get the softer moments here between all the fighting and the passion.
Uh,
uh, but so that's, I think, to me where I would have liked to have their first kiss, because they already fought, and like there still would have been that hatred, and they still would have like, it wouldn't have been resolved yet,
mm,
but it still would have happened. There still could have been all the feelings and the angst that were there before, just in a different space. Anyways, so like I said, I do really appreciate how we get the softer moments. We watch Kai care for Paedyn. She lets her guard down and processes some trauma with like the blood on her hands. He admits that he didn't know it was her father when he killed her father, and Kai admits some like additional trauma too that he experienced with his father, because his father never explained why he was killing the people he killed, and like it was like that was to get this obedience from him, like this unquestioning obedience.
mm,
And as they're talking through that, Paedyn's like, well, I'm surprised nobody's thanking me for what I did for like killing the king, because hearing what he did to Kai was like so harsh. So we get Kai admitting to himself, quote, "The thought of thanking her for driving a sword through my father's chest may be the cruelest thing I've ever considered. And yet, each scar scattering my body sings with the memory of cold hands and hot anger. Each one of my many masks a reminder of the man who molded them. Maybe I should be thanking her." And I was like, ooh, do we
snap.
have like we have more of this like cognitive dissonance within Kai that I don't think we have with Kitt just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Where like Kai has always been the one who's like questioning, right? So like
Yeah.
even when the resistance came in at the end of Powerless, he was the one who was like, why is Adina here? Why, like, what is happening? Like, why is all this, like, he's the one who's constantly questioning.
Mm-hmm.
And here we get that additional piece of like he's questioning what actually like goes on and like his thoughts and patterns, and I just really liked that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So after she is clean, she takes the bed, he's banished to the floor, and we get, quote, "Yet I can't help but think that in another life, another time, another chance to choose each other, I would be in that bed beside her." Which
I
just like,
highlighted that too. I was
ah,
like, uh, I wish too, Kai. I wish,
right.
buddy.
So the next morning, they wake up and the tenderness is completely gone. Paedyn pushes Kai so far that he just starts like, he grabs her arm and like pulls her through the streets with like, which like, okay, I think Kai's gonna take some losses here. I think he's just like not a good guy in this stretch of chapters.
He wasn't. I just
Um,
like kind of pretended that didn't exist so that I could still love.
we cannot pick and choose the aspects of
Yes,
people
I
that.
can. If it's a book character.
This is true. This is true. We had a whole conversation about how Kai was a murderer last episode, and we just skipped right over.
Yeah, that's okay.
Um, but anyways, so he's pulling her through the streets, not great. And that is until she admits that her injury is hurting, and he turns around and is like, his words are like sarcastic, and he's like, "Are you serious?" But his eyes are like looking over her to be like, "Oh shoot, is she actually in pain?" And he kneels before her, and Paedyn is smirking so much, and we get, quote, "I find myself committing the sight to memory with a smug smile. I feel anything but ordinary with the prince on his knees before me."
Uh,
Ah,
I had this one highlighted too. You literally highlighted every single one I did. I was like, this is amazing.
I love that. And then he bandages her up again, and they're on their way. Okay. So now we get Kitt's chapter, and I really debated where I wanted to put this in our outline because I don't love Kitt interfering with our time with Kai and Paedyn, if I'm gonna be honest. Like, I wish we would get, like, I don't know. I understand why it was done the way it was done. I just wish maybe, like, we we get, like, a flashback, maybe, if they're, like, reunited. I don't know. I just, like, maybe, like, this could have been the start of Fearless, like Kitt going through all the things he was feeling like Kai was gone, getting paid in. I don't know. Anyways, I understand why it was done. I just don't
Mhm.
love it because we were interfered
I
with Kai
know.
and
Every time
Paedyn.
I'm like, well, even in the first 5 chapters we read, it was like, oh my gosh, we found her, Kitt. I was like, dang it, get out of here, Kitt. Like, nobody wants you here.
Which, like, poor Kitt, he deserves all the love
He
too.
does, but I don't want him there right now.
This is true. So, even though we don't love it, we're going to go through the things that we learn in this chapter or that we're reminded of, right? So we learn Kitt is not eating, which I think we knew already, but like we got confirmation that he really wasn't eating and that he was throwing his food out the window, which,
Gail will kill him.
bro, at least like don't waste your food. There
Take
are
it
people
to.
starving in the streets. Don't
Mm-hmm.
waste your food, bro.
Take it over there.
Andy is a handy, which cracked me up when she said that. I was like, oh my gosh.
Andy is a handy.
But basically she followed her dad around and became a handy to like fix things around the castle, which we already knew. That was just like a quick reminder.
Mm-hmm.
Andy is so good at meeting people where they're at. Like, Andy is the person you need around when you're grieving. Kitt is struggling to breathe without his father. Kitt thinks that he is beyond repair. And this is such a sad chapter because Kitt has so many people around him who care about him, but he won't let them in and is like basically hiding behind his crown. Like, as soon as somebody gets too close, he like corrects and he's like, "I'm your king,"
Mm-hmm.
and like corrects them, which, my guy, they just love you. They just care for you. This is
I
just like so
know.
sad.
He forgot that he's Kit, not just the king.
Exactly.
My guy.
So, the next two chapters I titled The Beginning of the Journey Home. As I said, I was not creative last night. Don't come for me. So, we're back to Kai and Paedyn. Kai is now needing to take precautions with Paedyn, some for show and some for real, because our girl is a Houdini and gets out of everything. And one of his Imperials gets too close to Paedyn and is a complete jerk. So, Kai gets all possessive over Paedyn and threatens the
Yes.
Imperial's life. Our guy, let the Imperial have it. But Paedyn does not like it. We get, quote, "I hate it. Hate that I belong to him."
Ugh.
Like,
Yes, you do.
so then we also learned that Paedyn is afraid of horses, and she brings up a really good point that she has never been around them growing up. They're huge animals, and they can be extremely scary if you're not familiar. So, Keri, I do have a question.
Mm,
Did you grow up around horses?
I did not.
Are you afraid of horses?
Um, Not really.
Okay.
Like, I think I've ridden them twice in the last like 5 to 8 years.
Okay.
So I recently rode them last year, 2 years ago. Recently, last year or
Okay.
so. So it was just like getting used to like being so high and like being able to trust the horse you're on, which was different. So having to like, but like halfway through the ride, it was like, okay, we're cool. It was just like getting on and like trusting the horse. But I'm
Okay.
not afraid of them. I'm like, I respect them and keep my boundaries and like
Yeah.
let them like lead the conversation and lead the route or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. Like, you have to respect them because they are big, right?
Hmm.
They don't know how big they are. They think they're like a
They're little
mouse. And,
babies in their mind.
but
They say, "I'm a baby."
yes, but they are big and they can do some damage.
You grew up around
Um,
them, right?
Yeah, so I rode horses growing up from the time I was in like seventh grade. And then I actually managed a barn at a summer camp where we had 40 horses. So I am very familiar around horses. I also volunteered for a while at a large animal rescue, and we had a bunch of horses there. So, like, I love horses. I do respect horses, though. Like, you have to respect that they are large animals. But I
Hmm.
think there's a difference between like respecting the fact that they like what they are versus like being afraid of them, just like you
Yeah.
said, which I think is like a huge thing. Okay, so then because she's afraid of horses, she ends up walking across the desert tied up to a horse, which like is
That's
almost
more
worse.
scary. I don't understand her.
And obviously she becomes tired and she slows down because of her injury, and Kai heals her again using the healer power that he brought. Like, one of the Imperials is a healer, which leads him to admit that he is no longer a fool for her. Not anymore. Now, do you remember
All the
why he was
Bridgerton
originally?
references.
I didn't even catch that, but yes. Do you
I've been
remember
in a
why
Bridgerton
originally?
mindset. What?
Do you remember why originally he said he was a fool?
I don't.
So in the garden, he was saying like, I'm a fool for you, or like, I'm only a fool for you, or something like that. I should have
Hmm.
pulled the direct quote and I did not.
It's okay.
But here he's basically saying like, I'm not a fool for you, not anymore. Like, I
Okay.
like do not like you anymore, which is like, ooh.
Such a lie.
So she mourns the relationship that they used to have, and we get quote, having maimed any chance for a morsel of trust, every move I make is annoyingly under suspicion. It's a struggle not to mourn how easy getting close to him used to be, and how desperately I crave something not completely complicated.
Hmm.
Ah. So she comes up with a plan to get the knife off of Kai, which is executed flawlessly
Again, she's
and
so good at
so,
thievery.
so good. And Kai gets her on the horse and he gets on behind her and admits that he still thinks about her a lot. And then admits that Kitt is, quote, a shell of a man stepping into the shoes of a king, which, based on the previous chapter that we got, I would 100% agree with that statement. He is
Hmm.
a shell of who he used to be.
Really quickly, I don't know if this is a trope or not, but I love when they're like riding together on a horse. Like I think that was
Oh,
in Miley
yes.
scene. No, it wasn't. I think that's Ella Enchanted. But anyways, Outlander, like all the movies, shows, books that have them riding on a horse together, I'm like, give me more. It's so
I
good.
think that's such a good forced proximity.
Yes.
Like, I like that version of forced proximity.
Yeah. I think I like all the basic tropes. I think I'm just come to realize.
Well, that's why they're all so popular.
Yeah. So good. Anyway, sorry. A little side tangent
Well,
there.
you don't like the teaching trope. We
I
have
don't.
established that.
That's true.
So,
Or I'm not really a huge fan of the fake dating either.
oh, I love the fake dating trope.
It depends on how it's executed. I'll say that.
Okay. I got to think of a good fake dating one that I can give you.
Yes. You
Listeners,
should,
if you
when
have
you find it,
recommendations
just
about fake
post it.
dating, yes. Okay. So Paedyn ends up falling asleep, and we get the beautiful thoughts of Kai, who is holding her while they're traveling. We get, quote, I've never seen such peace held so gently in the arms of death.
Mm.
Ah. So they stop for camp and we get more banter and more history from Paedyn. I'm going to be honest here, I didn't love how we got this history, but I feel like I felt like I was being told very clearly what I was supposed to know versus like being dropped like in pieces that like all of a sudden fit in the puzzle. So I felt like this was like an info drop without a lot of or with very little finesse.
Hmm.
But we learn about Ilia, like why Ilia is the way it is, why ordinaries aren't allowed into Ilia, da 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 da. We'll talk about this in our magical moment section today. But once they stop, Paedyn and Kai sleep next to each other, and Paedyn puts her cold feet on Kai. Now, I, when I was reading this, I was laughing so hard because Liam is Liam radiates heat, except for his feet. He
Really?
has such cold feet. And every night we get into bed and he puts his cold feet on my legs to the
That's
point where
so rude.
I know, to the point where we have a rule that he cannot put his feet above my knee. Like when they're cold because I I work hard because I do not run hot. So I work hard to get in my little cocoon in bed and be all nice and warm and finally get cozy. And for him to come in and put his cold feet on my body
So
is just like
rude.
the rudest.
Jesse used to do that when we lived like in colder areas. Or his hands. Cold little hands. I'm like, geez Louise.
Okay. Liam, so we're going back a little bit. So, like I said, Liam radiates heat everywhere but his feet. So he has very warm hands. And growing up, my dad was like, if you have warm hands, it means you have a warm heart. And when like
Oh no.
Liam and I were dating, we realized I think that's like I don't remember exactly when this happened, but I always remember thinking he had such warm hands. And one day that clicked. It was like he has warm hands, like he has a warm heart. And I think that's like
Oh.
what I was like, oh, like he's like the one because like my dad was like telling me that like my whole life. And then like I have somebody who has that.
That's so
So
cute.
yes. And then he puts his cold feet all over me when I'm already warm.
Not so warm of a heart now. Everything but that.
Yes. But I deal with it. I still love him.
Yes. We still love our guys, even when they put their cold feet on us.
Yes. So then Kai wraps an arm around Paedyn and she
So
smiles,
cute.
quote, bright and big, like the night sky hanging above us. I fear she could rival the stars. And they fall asleep. And then Kai wakes up to arrows killing his Imperials and a blade to his throat. And that's the end of chapter 20.
So good.
I'm really sorry that left on such a cliffhanger.
All right, let's do our tomes and tonics. So,
Okay.
since we don't have any meet cutes today, I'm gonna ask Becca a reckless inspired slash tomes and tonics. I almost said tropes. Tomes and tonics inspired question. If you were indoor, what would your go to drink be besides water? Because we all would want water.
Well, it's funny. So we were working on the outline at the same time, and I was like, "Does water count?" And I like didn't realize that you were working on the outline, and you came in and you were like, "No," and I was like, "Excuse me, I think it does count."
I saw you
Um,
typing and I was like, oh, she's gonna put water. And then I saw you put a W and I was like, no, absolutely not. No being
um,
boring.
but no, I honestly like lemonade. That's like what I
Mhm.
crave when I'm thirsty. Is like lemonade, especially when it's like hot outside or I'm dehydrated. Like that's the drink that I want. To the point where like I have simple syrups that just go in my lemonade. Like I found a brand of lemonade that I like
Which one?
to like buy. It's from Sam's Club. It's like Sam's Club's lemonade.
Ooh,
Yeah, and it's like because some lemonades are like too sweet. Like I like
hmm
a strong flavor, but I
I
like
do
the
too.
strong flavor to be lemon. So like some lemonades are too sweet, some are not strong enough. They're just like water with like a little bit of lemon.
Sugar
This is
water.
like, yeah. And it's strong enough that like I can put like, so I have my, when I make my lemonades, I do like a third water and 2/3 of the lemonade because like I can
Mm,
drink it and it lasts a little bit longer. And then I put
smart.
a little bit of like my syrup flavoring in it and it's just a good time. So 10 out of 10. That's all I
Mm,
have to say. But yeah, that's
lemonade's a
me.
good one.
Lemonade. What do you think? What is your go-to drink
I
indoor?
would say lemonade probably, but I'd probably do like a strawberry lemonade. For some reason, that's always in my mind, like a strawberry, or like one time when I was like one of my moves, I got like super hot, so I stopped at Starbucks and got like a strawberry refresher with lemonade, and it just hit so
Ooh.
well, and that's always what I think of. I got a venti and I drank that so fast. That was when I had free drinks, so
Nice.
good times.
All right. So today's magical moments is going to be less magic and more history of Ilia. We get a
Ooh.
huge info dump from Paedyn, like I said earlier, when they're talking in the desert. And while I don't love how we learned the information, we did learn a lot of information. So we're going to go over it really quick. So Ilia used to be a weak kingdom that was attacked all the time. And then the plague came through and elites started being born. So the kingdom was already isolated from having the plague. So when elites started being born, they just continued to be isolated because they wanted to continue the elite race. So 70 years after the plague, which is 30 years ago, I believe, Kai's father decided to banish all the ordinaries when the healers, quote, found some unidentifiable disease that made this possible. So we also learn that ordinaries and elites procreating will eventually dwindle the elite race. So only elites make elites. However, according to Paedyn, greed is the reason that Ilia is still the way it is, not to protect the elite race, which, I kind of understand. I'm
There's
on
probably
Paedyn's
some
side
truth in
here.
that.
Yep. We also learned that despite having elites, Ilia is still a weak kingdom. So they don't have enough food for all of its people. They don't have enough land for all of its people. And they don't have any allies. In fact, they probably have a lot of enemies versus having any allies. So I think this is going to come back in Fearless of having enemies versus allies.
Mm.
So yeah, that's our magical moments for today.
I really think that like either Kai and Peyton are just gonna like run away together or something. That's how I thought Reckless was gonna be like. I don't know if I told you that.
Mm-mm.
I saw a fan art of them both like covered their faces, and so I thought they were like running away together.
Oh, interesting.
So
Okay.
I'm really glad that it didn't end up like that, but I'm wondering if that's how Fearless is gonna be.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm glad that it's not like that at this point. I like the cat and mouse thing right now.
Okay. Interesting. Keep that
Um,
keep that in the back of your head as we continue throughout
oh,
this
I
book.
will. Because I still think it's very probable.
We'll see. You'll know when you know.
I'll know when I know.
But thank you so much for listening to us today. If you liked today's episode, please rate and review us wherever you listen and give us 5 stars. If you're listening to us on Spotify and want to give us a great rating, please do so. We would love to have your rating on Spotify. If
Mm-hmm.
you're watching us on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to get notified of all of our episodes as we continue through Reckless.
Mm-hmm. And for more content, make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Tomes and Tropes Pod. Or if you have thoughts about this episode or this book, email us at tomesandtropespod@gmail.com. And as always, if you have any spoilers, just put for Becca's eyes only or spoiler alert, something like that. So I am not spoiled because it's hard enough out there on TikTok to keep away from spoilers as is. Anyways, we'd love to hear your thoughts on Reckless so far, and we'll see you next week when we go into chapters 21 through 30.
Stay curious and keep reading.
Bye.
Bye.